Welcome to the pre-post film review. I'm John Asquith.
And I'm Matt Stevenson. So, for those that are new to the podcast, basically the way it works is that when a new trailer is released, John and I will record our impressions and expectations and kind of what we think the film's going to be like based solely on the trailer. That's the first part of the podcast. That'll be completely spoiler-free, so you can listen to that before you see the film if you like. Then later on, once the film is actually released in cinemas, John and I will watch the film, come back, do a full review, and we'll kind of compare the film to what we expected it to be based on the trailer, and do an extended, longer review that will be chock full of spoilers. So make sure you don't listen to the second part until you've seen the film. So here are our trailer thoughts for Terminator Genisys.
John, you can do this. You just go and you don't look back.
My whole life I prepared my son to lead humanity in the fight against the machines.
On this night, we take back our world!
But there was one thing I could never prepare him for.
The machines tried to rig the game. Sent a Terminator back to the time before the war to kill my mother.
I'll go back. Let me save her.
Come with me if you want to live.
All right, we have just watched the full-length trailer for Terminator Genisys. And I just want to... I'm just sitting here wondering what you think of it, Matt.
I don't know what to think of this, John. It looks fucking bananas. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think probably a bad thing, but it may be so nuts that it's just fun. I'm not sure. It looks crazy. I mean, it seems like they're almost rebooting the franchise in this weird way where they've reversed everything and everything's backwards. Like, Sarah Connor has led the rebels and is sort of the Terminator character at the beginning, because she delivers that line, like, come with me if you want to live, when the Terminator rocks up back in the past or future or whenever it is. I don't really know what's going on. So I don't know, I guess there could be some fun, like, time travel-y paradox things going on. I mean, Terminator films have always had that time travel paradox sort of built into them, so it could have some fun with that. But it also just looks kind of dumb. And, I mean, we touched on this a little bit in our Jurassic World review. Just the constant references to the original film could get quite numbing. I think it's doing the whole wink, wink, like we all know that you've seen the first film, so it's almost like remaking scenes from the original films in the new films so that fans can recognise that they're being redone. Like, there's literal shots from, like, she shoots the T-1000 kind liquid metal robot in the eye, like exactly how it happens in the second film, and his like head forms back together, and he runs with the blade arms, and like it's almost like a combining Terminator 1 and 2 together, and then changing the roles of the characters, and then
that's pretty much exactly what it is, it seems like.
Anyway, so I'm not sure. I don't have particularly high hopes for it. But yeah, I guess my hope is that it could be so crazy it's fun. In a weird way. Yeah. If that makes sense. What do you think, John? Are you looking forward to this?
Not really, no. I think, I mean, you know, the first two Terminator films are fantastic, you know, masterpieces in their own little ways. And, you know, the franchise has just gone down the shitter ever since. So
I would stick up for Salvation a little. I hated 3.
Really?
Salvation I liked better than 3. I don't think it touches 1 and 2, but I would put it a little bit up above 3.
Yeah, I guess it was better than the third. But anyway, yeah, my point is that I don't care whether it's whether they screw it up even more. You know, if it's good, that's great, and I'll be very happy to see another good Terminator film. But my hopes aren't very high. The trailer just looks like kind of a clusterfuck of things going on, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just this sequel thing of trying to cram so much stuff in there, and, you know, it has to be bigger and badder and more teeth, to quote Jurassic World. And I just don't know. I have a feeling, you know, it's just going to be like set piece after set piece of, you know, with little quiet scenes in between that explain like this convoluted time travel stuff. I think you're right that it could be so crazy and stupid that it's fun. That's definitely possible. And I don't know. It's hard to. The trailer plays it really straight, except for a couple of gags. But maybe the movie manages to keep that tone and actually play with it. And you know, there's always a chance that it will be legitimately enjoyable. But I just don't know.
I think that's
I don't know.
The other thing, like referencing back to what I was saying before about the whole wink wink. We know you've seen the original film, so we're going to remake these scenes. Like that works in the like Lord and Miller school of comedy filmmaking, because there's like a sense of like jovial fun about it all, and it's like everyone's laughing at it, like they're laughing at the fact that they're taking the piss. But when you try and shoehorn that into like a serious action adventure film, I think that's kind of why I had a bit of an issue with it so much of it happening in Jurassic World. If this film is playing it super serious and dark and sinister the whole time, yet trying to put all these like jokey references in, it might not gel at all, and it could be pretty terrible. Yeah, but I suppose, like you said, if it does play it for laughs, I mean, the trailer ends with the Terminator, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, throwing himself out of a helicopter and like using himself as a missile to take down another helicopter. Like, maybe it has a sense of humor. It's stupid, right? Yeah. That annoys me. It's just like, because the Terminators do crazy things in the movies, but they still need to sort of protect themselves. Like, they're not invincible, you know? And that, I don't know. That's just a weird nerdy nitpick that annoys me. That this movie just seems like it's going to be that, you know, too over the top, too ridiculous. And I guess, you know, the point we're trying to make is whether that's enjoyable or just annoying. I think, you know, as you said, some of the retconny stuff could be fun, just in a why the hell not sort of way. And their reasoning for having an aged, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger in there, it's kind of interesting because he got sent back and he's been there so long, and because his skin is like whatever off his, basically, like it does age. So the inside's the same, but you know, and actually I think I know it's total fan service, but there looks like there's going to be a scene where he fights a younger version of himself. Yeah, like him from the first film. Yeah, and the CG looks like it looks like him. I don't know how the hell they did that. So that could be sort of fun as well. Yeah, I agree. It does look like this trailer gives away an enormous plot spoiler. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That John Connor is like, they've used a robot that like to look exactly like him to try and fool his mother, Sarah Connor. Yeah. And that kind of presumably turns into like the big baddie of the film. Which I imagine was meant to have been a big twist that happens kind of in the middle of the second act. It seems like it. Really seems like it. Because it builds up the T-1000 guy as the villain from the beginning. And then he suddenly just disappears from the trailer, and it's It's John.
John Connor. Yeah. Yeah, which makes me worried about the movie because they don't have confidence, in the movie delivering and then good word of mouth and good reviews. They're like, we're just going to put all this shit in the trailer and hope to get as many people as we can for those first weekend, you know.
I think you're probably right.
So, it's just like the Tomorrowland thing where this isn't a spoiler for anyone listening, but the George Clooney escape sequence that's in the Tomorrowland trailer is probably the best scene in the movie, and they kind of showed most of that in the trailer.
Yep.
So it could be a similar thing.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I also think the effects in this look a bit shit.
They don't look
it looks
great.
okay, but it looks a bit budget.
Yeah, I agree. Like the young Arnie looks really good. Maybe that's where all the budget went.
Yeah,
but the Liquid Terminator doesn't look particularly.
Doesn't look as good as
great.
the one in '92 or whatever.
Yeah. And you see some, Terminator arms and that kind of stuff, and it just looks very shiny and CG. Again, just no practical stuff.
Yeah, I guess in a way it's kind of like liberating to not have any expectations. Do you know what I mean? Like we can be pleasantly surprised by this.
Yeah, definitely.
I did like the sort of 80s synth music that the trailer opens with. I think it's probably like the original score or something from the first film. But it does set the mood at the beginning before it gets too wacky.
Yeah, I guess, we don't know what to expect. Probably not a great film, but, there's a chance it'll be entertaining in a knowing way or an unknowing way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am, it's funny, after just our conversation here, I am kind of more curious to see it now. Just to see what the hell is going on.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It's more curious than excited.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Kyle Reese,
You know who I am?
we've been prepping for you to arrive for over a decade.
We. The Terminator.
It is nice to meet you.
I've been trying to teach him to blend in. I know it needs work. John,
Hi, Mom.
How can you be here? What are you doing?
John!
what have they done to my son?
Survive was what you taught me.
Where is he?
Get out. Not machine. Not man. I'm more.
I can't leave him.
Whatever they did to John, we need to reverse it.
Everything's changed. We are humanity's last hope. Load up.
I've been waiting for you. You gotta get him off me!
I'll be back.
What?
All right, so here we are, guys. We are ready to talk about Terminator Genisys. Genisys. We've seen the movie finally now, Matt.
Yes, we have. Unfortunately, some might say.
Oh, come on, man. That's spoilers for your review. Well, starting on that note, why don't you tell us what your general thoughts are of this, the fourth Terminator film?
Fifth, isn't it? It's the fifth. Get it right, John.
Shit,
Christ.
you're right, the fifth. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Very unprofessional of me.
Yes, so the fifth Terminator film. I think neither of us went in with very high expectations for this. I think the best we hoped for was that it could be some kind of crazy fun. Like, it could be so crazy it's fun, right? At least for me, that's how I went into this film. I didn't expect it to be great. At the beginning of this film, when I sat down and the credits started and it did the whole flash forward thing into the future, I was totally not on board. I didn't like most of that stuff. But then it did the flash back, and it jumped back into the 80s. And there was a moment where I there was like this beacon of hope where it wasn't amazing, but it was doing this weird kind of like rewriting the history of the Terminator franchise in this fun way. I thought the special effects were great. The young Arnie looked really great. And there was this cool moment where you're kind of reliving the original film, but in this from a different perspective. But I would, for me at least, that was the high point of the film, and it was a steady decline from there. I don't know. I didn't. It was dumb, and it was over the top, and it was relentless in its action, and none of those aspects were presented in a good way. None of those were a positive. It got worse and worse for me, and by the end of the film, I was very disappointed and underwhelmed, and I did not have very high expectations. So yeah, I didn't hate it, but I certainly didn't like this film. It felt like a big waste of the Terminator name, and just another like notch on the belt of the Terminator franchise that should never have been made. They should have stopped way before this, and this doesn't do anything to kind of fix that. What about you? Did you think any more positive of this film? Did it work for you in any way, John?
No.
That's it. Podcast over.
Yeah, I was really bored actually for most of the movie. As you said, we didn't have high expectations.
No.
And I agree that the opening, well, not the opening, but that little segment where you first go back to the 80s, that was interesting. And you know, I've got to say the visual effects for the most part on the young Arnie looked really good. I don't know how they did that, whether they took footage from the original movie and then kind of put it over a 3D model, or whether that was a really good 3D model. I have no idea, but it was very impressive. His face in particular looks great. And that was interesting. And then, you know, you have the switch around where the old Arnie turns up and they fight, and there's even hints towards the start there of some interesting well, I don't know if it's interesting, but at least they were trying to have some stuff about aging and getting old, and you know, becoming what does that mean, you know, and how useful are you? I mean, that's a stretch.
There's this thing that they keep saying, right? What is it, like old but not obsolete or something?
Exactly. Old but not obsolete, which they could have made something really interesting there.
Yeah.
But quickly devolves, I guess is the word, into just mindless, crappy action, you know? And for as good as the effects are on that young Arnie at the start, the rest isn't particularly good. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not... Some of it looks a bit dodgy.
It's like they spent all their budget on the young Arnie and then were left to like, quickly do all the rest with the small amount of money they had.
Yeah, that's right. So after that, it just becomes a big mess and such a mashup of ideas from the previous movies repeated again, but slightly different. And I didn't like the rest of the movie at all. And as I said, I was bored and kind of struggled to pay attention to it, to be honest, because it was just, it felt like fan fiction or something, you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like, and then this happens, and then wouldn't it be cool if this happens? And then, you know, in Terminator 2, how the bad guy does this? Well, he does it again, except this time he has another thing that comes out the other side of his arm, and it's just like, you just get sick of that kind of shit, you know? So, yeah, I was disappointed. I mean, I'm not, like, depressed or really down about it because our expectations were so low. But it's disappointing, and I was thinking when watching it, and they would never do this because the way Hollywood works, particularly with sequels, is that you need to one-up stuff and it needs to get bigger and have more shit in it. But I'd love it if they just almost made indie films the wrong word, but like a small film again, like the first one, where it's just, maybe have that idea of the old Arnie that's, I don't know, or the old Terminator, whether he's protecting or he's the bad guy, and just kind of remake the first movie, but in a modern setting and, change a few of the relationship dynamics up. That would be amazing. But instead they have to have this big bombastic, ridiculous, stupid, hologram, Skynet stuff that just, it doesn't work.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. And I think you made a really good point with the age angle, because that's so true that they have this rich vein there, and with Arnie being this older, an older model and an older actor, you know what I mean? And there's like an angle there that you could go into this film and like dig into that in an interesting way. I mean, it doesn't have to be some like philosophical fucking expose on aging, but it could, you could tap into that sort of thematic stuff and make the action a little bit more richer. But all it does in this film is just devolve into like that stupid repeated tagline of old but not obsolete. Like it does nothing more than that. Like that's all it comes down to.
Yeah.
And they've kind of like inverted not even inverted, but I feel like they feel like they're trying to do something unique with the Terminator Sarah Connor relationship by making him like a father figure, but then there's actually nothing new about that. To me, that was one of my least favorite things about this, because it de-emphasized the intelligence of Sarah Connor in terms of her like understanding of the machines and how everything worked, and her like cynicism of the previous films, and it also it just didn't understand the comedy of that and the drama of that, which was so perfectly played in Terminator 2. Like that relationship's already been done, but it was a father-son relationship with Jon. Like that is how you do that properly. Like Cameron recognized that and made it like him a father figure for Jon Connor. And then they're trying to redo it in this with Sarah Connor, and I don't know, it just felt so cloying, and she has this like, she's got the like pet name for Pops. Him that he calls it like Pops or whatever.
It's terrible.
And just like hugs him all the time, and it's like, Pops actually cares, you know what I mean? Like he's not just a robot, he loves me, and he like, there's this like meant to be this like emotional thing that they have this connection, and I don't know, like it just, none of that ever rung true to me.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that it's a bit redundant, and it's just like the movie starts with them having the relationship that John Connor and the Terminator had by the end of Terminator 2.
Yes.
So you don't get any of the of that relationship building between them. It's just like they're already friends, for lack of a better word. And it also humanizes the Terminator too much too quickly, I think, because I felt like he was never really a Terminator. I felt like it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way he played it was, I know he'd been taught to be a bit more human, but I felt like he was playing it too humanistic almost. Like it just never. The thing that I really like about the first two movies is that you really feel like these human actors are mechanical in the way they move and speak and interact. And starting the movie with him already not like that is, I don't know, it really lost something for me in terms of him being like this cool, badass robot. It was just like, I don't know, and maybe that was their point, but it just, I don't know, it didn't.
No, I totally agree. And the other thing I initially felt with this film was just the relentlessness of the action, and not in a good way. Like it was, every single scene had to be like punctuated by this barrage of machine gun fire and some like chase scene. Do you know what I mean? Like there'd be like 2 seconds of dialogue and then old mate would pop out and be chasing the car again. There'd be like this big shootout and then you'd have like 2 seconds of silence and then another massive thing would happen. It was just like, I was just sitting there in the cinema going just like, fucking just stop for a minute, you know, and just tell, like, let me get to know these people. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay, there's something to be said about throwing you in the midst of, like, chaotic action, but yeah, that's a great way to start something, but I need to get to know the people subsequently, and this just didn't do that. It was trying to cram these, like, really forced character moments in between these dumb action beats that would just happen over and over and over and over and over, just like pushing the stupid plot forward further and further. And, it was numbing in a way. Like, it probably within the first half hour, I was over it.
Yeah.
I was just blanking, like, you know, glazing over and not caring anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was the same. And I noticed that as well. I think it follows that sort of modern trend of just rushing from one set piece to the next with these tiny, crappy little just exposition moments more than anything in between.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like dumb little, like it's not even meaningful, thoughtful character beats.
No.
It's like, it's like clinical. Do you know what I mean? It's like they put, okay, let's have this shootout, let's have him chase the car, let's have him almost die, let's have him have a comical moment where he does something, and then, okay, we got 2 minutes here, let's make that a character, air quotes, character moment. So everyone says one thing about their character, and then let's have another action moment, because people are going to be bored if we have more than 2 seconds of character development. You know, like,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and you think about, you know, Terminator 2, how much space there is in between the action set pieces, where the characters have time, as you say, to like slow down and talk, and you get to know them, and it just means more than the next time their lives are in danger, rather than constantly pushing to the next thing.
Yes. Well, okay, we're going in pretty hard, right? Obviously, we both didn't think much of this film, but what parts of this film did you enjoy? There must have been, like, I honestly, I didn't despise this film. It's coming off like I hated it, and I didn't like it, but I don't have like a vitriolic hate towards it. There were some things I enjoyed, but what about you? Were there things that you liked about the film?
I can't.
By the long pause, I'll take that as a no.
I don't hate it, but I can't. Aside from that little portion at the start that we talked about with the young Arnolds, I can't really think of anything else that I thought that I liked.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah. To be honest, like I actually got quite like pumped when that happened. Like when I realized that they were going back to 1984 or whatever when the first film was set. Like I was like, fuck yeah, maybe is this whole film going to be like set in the 80s? Like that's cool. Like you don't really see action films set in the 80s. I mean that didn't play out and it ended up being a disappointment. But that
would have been great.
Yes. Yeah. That sequence is really great. And I mean, not just because it's in the 80s, but I think it's pretty well done. And the way it like plays on what you know happened from the original Terminator film. So yeah, I really like that. But I also think that the strongest non-80s moment and the strongest thing outside of that part of the film is probably J.K. Simmons' character. And I really liked how they brought him. Like, that was a nice twist, how he was this police or the security guard or whatever it was, the police officer from the opening of the film when they sort of rehashed the Terminator 2 stuff. And then he comes back and he's just such a great character actor. Like, he elevates every single scene that he's in.
I love him.
And he's so good. And he's almost playing again. I mean, maybe this is just coming off Whiplash and knowing what he was like in Whiplash, but playing this kind of like dorky, clumsy kind of like conspiracy theorist that no one believes, that has no clout whatsoever, was, I don't know, it was really great to see him in this like meek role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really loved it. Every time he was on screen,
totally
the film went up like 10 times in my enjoyment radar.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And even just his like the idea of that. Like someone, because like the other thing I do like about this film and the Terminator films in general, I guess, is the time travel stuff, which is just fun.
Yeah,
like time travel is just fun, and just having someone like
witness
experiencing from two like points in the timeline and being in such different points in their life. I don't know. It was just like a cool way of exploring that kind of stuff. I don't know. I liked it. I really liked how they handled all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. No, I think I sort of forgot about that stuff, and that was definitely fun. And as you said, every time J.K. Simmons was on, it brought the film up a couple of levels. So that was good. That sense of fun was there occasionally, but it just wasn't enough to sustain it over the whole length, particularly towards the end, I think. And that we haven't even talked about this twist with John Connor, right? That
we probably should.
he gets infected or something by Skynet, a physical manifestation of Skynet somehow, and becomes like I don't know, is he a full robot? Is he still half John Connor? I didn't quite understand what was going on there.
I don't 100% get it, but it is like an amalgamation between human and machine, as far as I understand. That is the newest, most advanced permutation of the Terminator robot, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem like John Connor maintains part of his humanity because he remembers everything that's happened in the past.
Yes, that's true. But he's fully corrupted, really.
Yeah, and again, I think that's another like missed opportunity. Like, there's some interesting ground to cover there in terms of like fate and inevitability and time travel and like what if John Connor was not the savior, right? And what if he was always destined to actually fuck things up? Do you know what I mean? To be actually the one that, like, what if something happened and he, post sending the robots back, then realized that was a bad move and that the only way to save the planet was to do, to believe in whatever eventuates in Skynet, which then, perpetuates the machines. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's almost like an intelligent inverse of the original Terminator concept that could have been a fun twist in this parallel Terminator timeline that they're going on. But again, they never sort of delved in that. I mean, I guess it's sort of hinted at in a way, but it's not really. Like, he's just the villain. The machines just changed him to half machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally. And then, you have the Terminator basically sacrificing himself, and then this terrible cop-out that he lands in, like, the liquid metal stuff, and then comes back at the end, and he's like, I got upgraded, or whatever the hell he says. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And now he's, like, liquid, and if they are presuming that's kind of setting up for a sequel, so now he has extra powers and stuff. I mean...
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just very, very silly. I mean, I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think... I kind of like that he's acting again, at this older age.
Yeah, I agree.
There's more interesting stuff he could do.
Yep, I 100% agree. This just needs to stop. And I think this is like a perfect example of a franchise that does not benefit from sequels, if you know what I mean. Like, there's certain things, and I would actually lump something. I mean, this is going against the fact that fucking Jurassic World just is now the most successful film in history. But there's certain properties that they don't necessarily lend themselves to like expanding the universe, right? Like
yes,
the key thing about it's one idea. It's not a air quotes universe like the Marvel universe or the Star Wars universe. This is a single idea about a robot that was sent back in time to kill someone to stop an uprising.
Yeah,
great idea, great film. The sequel happened to build on that in a smart way. That just basically the shtick of Terminator 2 is that it just inverted it, right?
Exactly.
Like it's the same concept. Yeah. A robot sent back in time to kill someone to stop an uprising, but the person you thought was a villain is now the hero, and now you've got to call a more advanced villain. Like you can't go any further than that. Like beyond that, like that's a stretch, but Cameron is smart enough filmmaker to make it as successful when he explores other things, like the father-son relationship, like we were talking before. Like beyond that, there's no air quotes universe to blow that out into. Yes, you can show the war of the man versus machine, but that's not enriching our enjoyment of anything. That's just like, okay, let's watch machines and humans shoot each other.
Yeah,
that's not what's exciting about the Terminator film.
No,
like your point is it's not a property or a franchise or a brand that warrants this more and more expansion. Like it should have ended at 2. It's pushed on way too far, and it needs to end as soon as possible because there's just not much else to draw on. Like seriously, like there's nowhere for it to go.
No, yeah, I agree. I think everything you said was very well put. Then that's the franchise in a nutshell. And you're right, comparing it to Jurassic Park, and I think that franchise will suffer a similar fate in the end, sooner than later. You know, because it's being pushed. Jurassic World is pushing it enough, and whatever the heck they do next is it's just going to be silly, and that's what's happened with Terminator now. It's just gotten silly. Yeah.
If I was to mention one other thing that I thought was a positive in this film, would be the fact that, though admittedly most of it's not handled very well, I think there's certain moments where they still are able to convey like a real threat in terms of like how scary the robotic like killing machines are.
Yeah.
Like there was one scene in particular where like Kyle Reese or whatever it is running away from one of the Arnie Terminator, and they're like in this like sewer system, and I can't remember how he shoots him with something and he burns all the skin off the Terminator. He's like a robot, and they're in like a sewer system, and he runs, and I mean it does get a little bit silly, like he's under these like pipes, and the Terminator's like smashing through the pipes, and it's like seriously just like like step to the side and you can just grab him underneath. Like, what are you doing? But there is a like ferocious relentlessness to the Terminator machine that is just frightening. Like, it's not like a Transformers movie or a modern sort of, I don't know, sci-fi film where the robots feel kind of like malleable and you can hit them and they're like dent and like get like these are like fucking titanium killing machines. Like, no matter what, you can shoot them with a fucking rocket launcher, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna burn their skin off, and then they're gonna keep coming straight at you. Like, there is something inherently frightening about that, and like unfortunately the film doesn't recognize that, and there's maybe one or two moments where that shines, but I mean, the originals did, but I still think it's that, to me, is a welcome change to something like, I don't know, Age of Ultron, which is like a similar kind of thing. He never has that kind of threat to him. He's just nothing but a CGI voice box to like spout philosophical shit. Whereas these robots do feel genuinely threatening, even if it does get a little bit tiresome.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And I wanted more of that, because that's what I love the most, almost, about the first two.
Well, that's what they are. That's what the first film is, and what the second film builds on. That's the core of this franchise.
Yeah, and it is. You're right. Frightening is the word. Like we're so used to these movies now and this character that you forget how, when you watch those first two, how scary the Terminators are, because they just don't stop, and you can't stop them. It's really hard to stop them. And they don't have emotion. They don't have any of that personality. They're just going to keep walking towards you. It's like It Follows, you know? It's like
I was just going to say that. That's such a good example.
Yeah. So maybe It Follows is like a weird spin-off, you know? It's like a liquid Terminator.
Yeah. That's so weird that we're making this connection, because that's so true. That like It Follows is a perfect companion piece to the original Terminator, because it's the exact same concept. Yes.
Totally.
It's just the relentlessness of it, and the indestructibility of it. Like, you can't stop it. Like, it is, no matter what, it's going to keep coming at you, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why they don't need to one-up all the crazy shit around them all the time.
Yeah.
And I know they do, because, again, Hollywood, money, box office. But I actually think they'd make more money if they made a good film and kept it smaller and on that level of just like tense, like shit, it could be coming any second, where the hell is it, sort of thing.
Well, I think this is almost a good example of that theory being proven correct. Like, this film hasn't done very well, and, you know, something like It Follows has been, I mean, I suppose it didn't do amazingly in terms of like a huge blockbuster, but for a small indie film, like, it did so amazingly well in the indie space that they tried to broaden the release out to, and I guess, full disclosure, it didn't work, at least in the States, when they blew it out to massive theaters. But you know what I mean? Like, but when you look at it comparatively as to what those films are doing in their own spheres, like, that was such an amazingly successful little indie film, and this was such a not a success in terms of a big block. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of shit. If there was some kind of crossover, like, you just need to, I don't know. Like, I think you, like, bang on the money. And I think the other thing about this film is that another example of how it does not understand that kind of scary, relentless threat is just the ludicrousness of the cartoonish violence in this film. There's so much, like, cartoonish bullshit. Like, I keep saying cartoonish, but cartoonish is the only fucking word I can think of. Like,
yeah, it's right.
Like, literally, you know, Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor time travel naked into the middle of a road, and then he gets fucking hit
that's so
by
weird.
like a car going at like 70 kilometers an hour, and he just takes the impact and like rolls with it, and they're perfectly fine. It's like, what the, seriously? What?
That was really weird. That was like, are they Terminators? They didn't react at all.
And not even like, did he just take, like, he wasn't even injured in the slightest, you know what I mean? Like, never mentioned again. It's like, I just keep my truck, yes, fine, you know? Never mentioned.
I feel like he didn't even go like, or anything, you know?
No.
He just kind of took it.
Yeah, it was fucking weird. There is such small fixes you can do to that to make it not ruin the whole sense of danger. Like, it's I don't know. That sort of stuff frustrates me. It's like a real lack of care. Like, they just...
Yeah.
It's like, you're right. All they care about is the spectacle and not anything else. This seems to me as like a good representation of something, like a trend that's happening in Hollywood with films retconning like certain sequels and like picking what sequels they want to be like canon in air quotes and what they want to reference. So this Terminator film seems to really only reference Terminator 1, but kind of expect you to see Terminator 2 and not the rest. It just ignores 3 and Salvation, which is perhaps not to the same extent, but that's kind of exactly what Jurassic World did. It's almost like a direct sequel to the first film, and it ignores 2 and 3. And from my understanding, kind of the press that's coming out, that's exactly what the new Alien film by Neil Blomkamp's doing. It's kind of like Alien 1 and Aliens, and then forgetting Alien 3 and Resurrection or whatever it is. Maybe a reason why I dislike that is it's kind of like it's becoming, or it seems to be becoming, a go-to for Hollywood instead of making creative, new, original products.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, usually the way a life cycle of a product works, it'll run its course and it'll die out, and then Hollywood will inherently have to think of a new idea because this one has run its course. But now Hollywood and its infinite wisdom has, discovered this way of just ignoring the dying out phase and going back to when something was great and springboarding in it like another direction, like taking it to the left instead of the right and trying to create another franchise. You know what I mean? There's something like a bit icky about it that it doesn't quite sit right with me. Yeah,
that's a great.
But maybe that's just maybe that's just cynical Matt sitting here and criticizing the film industry. I don't know.
No, I think that's a really good point, and it is troubling and worrying because you're right that there is that natural cycle, and if you stop that cycle and just keep pushing shit until it like beating a dead horse, it's just not good. It's not good for creativity. It's not going to be good for box office in the long run. So I don't know why they think it will be. Like it's just I think it's bad. I think it's a bad trend. Okay, so I guess we've rambled for a bit here, Matt. Pretty negative episode, and I'm sorry to anyone listening if it's too negative, but it's honest. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most people would agree, but who knows? So yeah, do you have any sort of closing thoughts to cap off this review?
I don't know. I guess I didn't have high expectations. For me, the Terminator franchise is Terminator and Terminator 2, and it ends there. So there was no kind of weight or responsibility for this film to be amazing, and it wasn't. So I mean, I don't think it's the worst thing that's come out this year. I didn't hate it.
No.
I had an average to negative time in the cinema. Like I enjoyed moments and disliked other moments. And I don't feel like it tarnishes the original, even though it does retrospectively try to alter them in their sort of like timeline that they go on. I don't think it damages the first two films in any way. But
no.
I mean, I guess overall what I'm trying to say is just I'm disappointed, and more so just disappointed in what we're seeing out of sequels these days. Like if this is what we've come, what is the norm and what we should expect in the future of, different timelines and old franchises being brought back just to try and make some money. It's just like, it's a bleak outlook for what's to come, which makes me a little bit sad. I kind of hope that they, I don't know, try new things instead of going down this route, because it's not a good path to go down.
No. Yeah, well hopefully the kind of bad buzz and the poor box office will stop them from continuing to do this. We can only hope, I guess. But yeah, I don't have much to add really. I agree. I think I was disappointed. I wasn't very interested for most of the movie. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Pre-Post Film Review. We'd love to hear what you guys thought of Terminator Genisys. So please send us an email to prepostfilmreview@gmail.com. And as always, we're keen to hear the kind of opposite opinion. If someone really liked it and if they could tell us why, that's always really interesting. So feel free to shoot us an email, and as we always say, we reply to every email we get, so it's great to have a chat with you guys about what you're thinking.
And the other way you can get in contact with us is to pop on over to Facebook and give us a like there. We're also on Twitter. We're at PrepostFR. So you can follow us there. We're doing a little bit of a push to kind of regularly update Twitter and post interesting news pieces and notify you guys about what's going on with us. The most important thing, however, is to jump on iTunes and subscribe. That's a great way for us to kind of get on iTunes lists and find new listeners. So if you could subscribe to us there, and even better, if you could leave us a review, that would be awesome. Because again, that just really helps us in terms of finding new listeners. However, if iTunes isn't your thing, you can find us on Stitcher. You can subscribe there, or basically any other big major podcast network or podcast streaming service. We're basically on everything.
That's right. And if you just can't get enough of us, you can also follow us on letterboxd.com. The links are in the show notes. It's a great film site, a little film community that lets you log the movies you've seen, write reviews, leave ratings, and just sort of stay in touch with what other people are saying and thinking about movies. So give us a follow there as well. Lastly, please stick around. Not stick around, but download us next week, or maybe not next week, whenever it comes out. Or if you're listening to this in the future, it's probably already out. But the point is, next episode we're going to be talking about the new Pixar film Inside Out, and I'm really looking forward to that discussion. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, do you know what happened, John? It'll be a Jurassic World situation. When we're doing this podcast in 20 years time,
yeah,
there'll be it'll be like a play on Terminator. It'll be like Terminator World or something. Or the original's called The Terminator. It'll be something like that, or The Terminators or something.
Terminators,
cool.
yeah.
It'll just be like almost. Yeah, it'll be like almost a rehash of the original set in the 80s, and everyone that grew up with the Terminator will like fucking jizz over it, and all the kids that hadn't seen this sort of thing will jizz over it, and it'll be the most successful film of all time. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, man. Kill me.
That's alright, we got 20 years, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. In between then, we've got lots of stuff to experience, plenty of life.
Yeah, exactly.
When that movie comes out, let's jump off a bridge.
All right, deal.
We've had a good run.
Well, yeah. What a way to end the podcast. Let's end it on a suicide.
Yeah, which is weird because it's not like the worst movie ever.
I know. That's like such a weirdly negative way to end it. Oh